I'm Hale Stewart, and I'm with Hale Stewart Law, which is where finance, economics, and law meet. Here's a really interesting little fact about insurance policies. 56% of insureds think they have coverage that they don't have. So what that means is that they misunderstand their insurance policies because A, they haven't read them, or B, no one's explained it to them. That's what Insurance University, this video and this series of videos I've put together, is all about. To explain insurance policies to people so they understand what's covered before they file a claim. Now, today, I'm going to do part 2 of cyber coverage. You do need to see part 1 first, and the reason why is I cover some key definitions, and I'll be using those definitions in this particular video. However, before I get started, 2 things. Number 1, this video does not establish an attorney-client relationship. There we go, a good disclaimer. Number 2, I will be looking away from the camera. I try to make eye contact because that's what mom and dad taught me was a good thing to do. But I'll be looking away to read certain terms and conditions. So I apologize for that up front. That being said, today, as I mentioned, I wanted to talk about the actual coverages. That is the risks that a cyber coverage policy provides for the insured. And let's start with the big one, security breach expense. Now, the good thing about this particular definition is that it broadly defines a wide number of potential cyber issues. And the best thing about this is, should a new risk emerge, I think the chances are pretty high that this definition will cover that. Now, first of all, please watch video 1 for the definition of security breach. Now, this particular coverage covers forensics. That's the cost to hire a third party to do 2 things: to come in and investigate and to draw up a plan of action. Now, this also covers some key expenses related to that. The big one is notification expense. All 50 states now require companies to inform all their customers in the event of a security breach. So think about this. You're an online retailer and you have credit card information for 10,000 people, and unfortunately, you have a security breach. Everybody now has to be told about this, every one of those 10,000 people. That alone can be a very expensive process. Now, security breach expense also covers the overtime salaries and a potential call center that you might have to put together for this. It also covers post-event monitoring. A lot of times you'll hear this as part of a settlement, that post-event monitoring is included. Finally, it also covers other expenses. Now, we have a key qualifier here. The expenses have to be reasonable. Okay. However, let's suppose that another expense, completely hypothetical at this point, pops up. You now potentially have the ability to be indemnified for it. Now, this also covers all the expenses related to an extortion threat. And again, I covered that definition in the first video for this. Now, an extortion expense means cash and cost of a security firm or a person or organization that helps you determine the validity of the threat and how to deal with it. It also covers potential interest costs that you might have to pay if you take out a loan to pay the actual threat, not to mention reward payments and any other reasonable expense. Now, remember, the definition of extortion threat is pretty broad. It covers not only ransomware, but the threat to do certain things. And this particular indemnification covers the broad range of expenses associated with that. Now, there are a couple of other expenses that this covers. A big one is business income and extra expense. Anytime you see a business income coverage, it's easy to overstate what's actually there. How that term is defined and then later dealt with by the parties is key. Here's a fact pattern. Let's suppose that your firm had a great third quarter, but it's the third quarter when the event occurs. It's possible the insurance company could say, well, the third quarter was abnormal for some particular reason. Therefore, we're going to lower the potential payout to give you a more reasonable identification for what would be a more typical net income figure. These types of arguments, which relate to haggling between the parties, are not atypical for a business income coverage. So, the good news here is you're covered. The bad news here is that it might not give you everything you want or need, but it does cover something. Public relations expense. This is key. Go back, for example, to 2014 when Target was hacked. This was the hack that really put cyber risk on the market for a lot of people, in a lot of people's opinion, mine included. Think about the negative publicity that generated for Target. Okay, it happened during the holiday season. Can't think of a worse time for a retailer to have bad news come out. It took them a while to rehabilitate their image. They had to hire a firm to perform all those duties and functions and come up with a plan and deliver, etc. That's covered by this particular cost. Okay? Replacement or restoration of electronic data. Suppose that a computer program is eaten, or suppose that a cyber extortion program is put on your network and destroys or harms some programs. The cost to repair those programs is back here. And finally, there's security breach liability. This right here is key. Cyber causes of action are growing in popularity with plaintiffs' attorneys. And here's why. Let me go back to the example I used earlier. The retailer, you got 10,000 people and 10,000 clients. Their data gets out, and you've done everything you need to do. A plaintiff's attorney is still going to find one person and probably sue you. And they're going to argue that A, your security measures were insufficient. They may also particularly name the C-suite executives and argue that they violated their fiduciary duty. Okay? This particular expense, basically it's the back-end legal liability, is another key reason why you need this policy. In the event you get hit by a cyber incident, it's a foregone conclusion, in my opinion, that you're going to get sued, so you need coverage for that particular expense. That right there is the highlights of what the ISO cyber liability policy covers. Now, all cyber policies are not created the same. If you get cyber insurance, and by the way, this is a mandatory policy in my opinion, because of how it is all present, internet and technology-related stuff is. You have to have this. Make sure you go over the details with a fine-tooth comb, and you go over them with an attorney who understands how to read contracts and interpret them, etc. I hope you found this helpful. Should you have any questions, please contact me. 832-330-4101. Thank you very much for watching this.